hi to everybody. I'm Peter Reinhardt. You're on Pizza Talk, presented by Pizza Quest. And today we're with my friend Leo Spizzirri, who we've referred to in an interview in an earlier issue of Pizza Quest, if you go and see the interview, as the greatest guy you never knew. Now, that was 3 years ago when we did that interview, Leo. And since that time, you are no longer this unknown factor. You're pretty well known now in the pizza world, the pizza community, and your notoriety is growing. But for those people who are seeing you and meeting you for the first time, maybe you could kind of fill us and tell everybody your backstory, and we can also refer them to the interview, the written interview we did on Pizza Quest. But maybe the headlines, take them through your journey.
Sure.
From the greatest guy you never knew to the guy that everybody wants to know.
So my name is Leo Spizzirri. I've been in the pizza business all my life. I started at 13 years old and was at a pretty historic place here in Chicago called Nancy's, where I started. And over the years, I really built that reputation as being the Chicago pizza guy. And it took a long time to get that off my shoulders as just being known for Chicago pizza. But, it's a great thing. I mean, Chicago's a great city. And, over the years, I've had some incredible positions that I've held. I was the executive chef for all the Giordano's restaurants in Chicago, and a lot of corporate chef positions at some really large chains. And that's really where my focus started to get involved in the dough side of pizza. As a corporate chef for a lot of, like I said, multi-unit chains, it was really important for me to understand consistency of doughs and, kind of what makes these doughs different and how to kind of evolve them through multiple locations. So I really took that seriously. And over the years, I did a lot of training. And I think that's one of the really big reasons why I decided to open a school. And it was that focus on education that really was something that inspired me through the years. So, that's when I got to meet Tony Gemignani for the first time. And I went to the International School of Pizza. I was in one of his first pizza classes. And I can actually remember when I got there, Tony made me make a Chicago pizza again, he wanted to see a deep dish and a stuffed pizza. And this is all pre.
He wanted to see how many ideas he could steal from you. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Tony's a great guy, and I tell people this all the time. You mentioned like getting to a point where people start to recognize you, and you get a lot of recognition. And over the years, it seemed to be that there's this kind of thing now that. Maybe it's just because of our education levels. Tony and I came out of the same school at Scuola Italiana Pizzaioli. And
can you say the name of that school again, but slowly for those who don't know about it?
Sure, Scuola Italiana Pizzaioli. And it's the oldest pizza school in Italy, located in Venice. We both trained under the headmaster, who's Graziano Bertuzzo, who's world-renowned as a pizzaiolo.
Yeah, Tony mentioned him in his interview as well. It sounds like he's been a very major influence in both of your lives.
Yeah, and over the I would say probably since I opened the school, I don't know, it's just a weird thing that I keep hearing, like, people mention things like, like Leo and Tony, and then all of a sudden it became like a competition thing. And I remind people all the time, it's like, man, you guys got to know, if you're getting any knowledge out of me, you're getting a lot of stuff that came from Tony as well, because Tony's really a guy that, he's the guy that took me out of Chicago. And I give him props to that all the time, because until the point where I went to California and I stayed with him for about a week, and it was really one of those, like, what do you mean you've never stretched a New York style pizza before?
Sorry about that. My phone isn't cooperating today. I have it on off, and yet the voicemail still speaks up. Going back to Tony. So you and Tony, in a way, kind of also invited you to be part of his World Pizza Champions team as well, right?
Yeah, and again, this is going back to a time when Chicago style pizza wasn't even a thing. I can remember the first time I wanted to compete in the International Pizza Challenge at Pizza Expo. And I called Pizza Today, and I had one of the ladies on the phone, and I'm giving her all my information to register. And she's telling me, because I was making a Chicago pizza, I had to go into the non-traditional category. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I was running Giordano's, and just the one location that I was in charge of we were doing about 1,200 pizzas a day out of.
Right.
And I'm like, if this isn't traditional, I don't know what is. And that's kind of when Tony heard the story, and he's like, man, I think you got a great thing. I'd love to meet you. And then it was like within 6 months, he's got me on a plane, and I'm traveling with the World Pizza Champions team to Salsa Maggiore, Italy, and making the first Chicago stuffed pizza in a competition. Actually, I wasn't the first. I was the second. I don't know if you guys know Sean Browser and his wife Jackie.
Sure.
It was actually Jackie who made the first Chicago stuffed pizza the year before I did. So there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. People think I was the first, but I wasn't. I was just, I think, made the biggest. I made a 20-inch Chicago stuffed pizza.
How'd it go over?
It's historic. It's a historic story. I went over there, and Graziano, the other guys, the oven judges, went up to Graziano and like, this guy tells us that he needs 25 minutes to bake his pizza, and like they would give you like 15 minutes total to bake your pizza.
Right. They're looking for like a 60-second pizza. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when Graziano saw this like giant 20-inch pan, I could see the chuckle, and he's like, just let him go ahead. Let's just see what he's gonna do. And I made this behemoth. I had used grande cheese at the time, and there was almost I think it was about 8 pounds of mozzarella inside of that pizza. And when I brought this thing to the judges, I served it on appetizer plate, the platters that we would use at Giordano's. I served each slice on that giant dish. And when I pulled this, the cheese pull, I literally could have stood on a 12-foot ladder and stretched that cheese to the roof. The judges they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what this was. And literally, I came in dead last place. But every journalist that you could have thought of, Irish, Japan, all the different TV companies, were all over the place. Like I was some celebrity with this pizza. They'd never seen it.
Yeah, and you kind of lost the competition, but won the war.
Yeah, and I think that's, talking about how like Tony's always been a visionary like that, and he's a pioneer. They call him the GOAT for a reason because of that. And I think that Tony saw something back then, especially in me, that he's like, hey, you know what? This isn't just a regular guy from the streets, making pizzas. Yeah. This guy's got some passion for what he's doing. And, again, my love for Tony, again, he's like a brother to me.
Yeah.
And as for a lot of us in the industry.
A lot of people feel that way about him. Yeah, that's for sure. But before we leave the Chicago thing, since we've got a guy here now who's kind of an authority on the Chicago, pizza style, let me ask you about that. One of the things, when you were over in Italy, is there any kind of precedent? Because a lot of people ask me this, and I don't know the answer. Is there a precedent in Italy for something in that Chicago deep dish style? I think of it as like pizza rustica or something like that. And there must be some Italian version that lives somewhere in the country that it refers to, or is it just a total Chicago creation?
So it actually derives. So when we talk in our classes, when I do my certification course, we talk a lot about the 5 styles from Italy and how they immigrated to the United States. And the closest thing that I can tell you that there is a pizza that comes from Sicily. It's actually a Southern Italian pizza. More of, you mentioned pizza rustica, or maybe that old, the calzone, we call it, that we would eat maybe around Easter time, both in Sicily and in Calabria, where my family's from. But that pizza was filled with like eggs and different types of cheeses. And I think it was the family that brought it to Chicago that turned it into what it is today by putting the mozzarella instead of the eggs inside. And then instead of leaving the top just white or in bianco, we would call it, they put the pizza sauce on top and baked it.
So in Calabria, where your roots are, what would they call a pie like that? Is there a name for it?
They're called exactly that, a pie.
They call it a pie.
I've got a YouTube video out that's out right now that's got over 1 million views, and it's really just all over the place. And again, it's one of those things that I can't get away from being called that Chicago pizza guy. But if you would see some of the comments, there's 20,000 likes, but then there's like 1,000 that are going back to the whole Jon Stewart thing that they hate it.
Right.
And the Italians tell me, like, God forbid, take that Italian flag off of your uniform. They're all Exactly. It's so funny. And, and then when I respond to them in Italian, then all of a sudden they back off a little bit. Yeah. But, I think that's a big thing. When we talk a lot about innovation and things in our world, just, you know, what's a pizza to one person doesn't mean that that's got to be the say all end all, because pizza really is never ending. And, you know, talking to guys like John Arena, for example, who's another really close friend and a mentor to me, that's really one of his mantras throughout the years that he's always talked about, that, you know, what makes your idea of pizza correct and what makes this guy's pizza incorrect. And that's one of the things I love.
I think that's a really good point, and we have talked about that quite a bit with many people. But before I lose you on this one, you mentioned 5 styles of pizza that are, quote, authentically Italian. What are those 5 styles? Well, we know the sort of Naples style, but what are all 5?
So I'm going to tell you the 5 that I got master certified in, all right? And these are the ones that we call out all the time. So the Neapolitan, all right, pizza, the pizza that comes from Naples, Italy, being, let's say, the mother of all pizzas, okay? Pizza Napolitana is number 1, okay? And then we've got the round pizza eaten throughout the rest of Italy, which we call pizza classica, all right? Very different in style from the pizza that you would see in Naples, because pizza classica is baked a little bit longer. The edge, the cornicione, is browned a little bit more. We see more types of toppings, and not just, let's say, fior di latte or mozzarella di bufala on top, where you're seeing different types of mozzarella closer to, let's say, the mozzarella that we have here in the United States that's dry and shredded. And that's one of the big styles, right? So those are 2.
So is the Classica, would that be something that we in the United States would think of as either New York style or maybe American style? Is it closer to that sort of Americana?
Yeah, we call out let's say, when you talk about New York pizza, okay? The pizza that we know today as New York style pizza, I would say, is the closest relative to pizza classica.
Okay.
But when we talk about pizza napolitana and we talk about the people who immigrated from Italy to the United States and settled in New York and created those first pizzas, well, that pizza, I think, is closer to maybe the coal fire style, a pizza that's baked at a lot higher temperature, right? So thinking of, like, you know, we call out Lombardi's as the oldest pizzeria in America, and then we know that there's a bunch of others that are probably just
like New Haven and yeah.
Exactly. So when we talk about those styles, I think those are the similar ones to Neapolitan, right? But the pizza that we know today as that round edge, thin crust pizza, probably the closest is that pizza classica.
Okay, so that's 2.
That's 2.
What are the other 3?
Then we've got the famous pizza in teglia, okay? Pizza in teglia is called out as coming from Sicily. And then we also have the pizza in teglia that's in Rome. So they're 2 very different pan-style pizzas. And the major differences are the amount of water and the maturation process to come up with the structure of those doughs. So pizza in teglia is the 3rd one.
Can you spell it? Is that Taglio? Is that how we would Americanize it?
No, that's taglio. Taglio means to cut, okay? So if you were to go and have pizza in teglia, okay, you would go in Rome and have go into a pizzeria, and they would offer it to you as al taglio, meaning that it's going to be cut and then weighed out, okay? So teglia refers to the pan. It's the pizza pan, and it's Teglia, teglia. Okay. We also have another style in Rome called pizza al metro or pizza alla palla. Okay. La palla is the peel, the long peel, and al metro refers to the size, the meter-long pizza. But if you go to historic places in Rome for that style, you know that, like the famous Campo del Fiore, right?
Antico Forno, yeah.
Exactly, Antico Forno, in the old center, right, of Rome. That pizza is actually 2 meters long, 6 feet long. And it's an amazing process when you see that pizza made, because they actually bunch all the dough up on a very small platform, and they pull it the rest of the way to make it that size.
And jiggle it in, yeah. And I've had that, and it's intoxicating. It's so good.
Last year, I was actually very fortunate. I was able to, I was at the Fancy Food Show, and I was doing a demonstration in one of the booths. And of all people, Jim Leahy came up to me and introduced himself and said hello and blew me away, called me maestro and all that stuff.
And of course, most people know Jim Leahy as the originator of the New York Times No Knead Bread, and also a baker and pizza maker of great renown.
He's an unbelievable baker, an unbelievable person. He invited me to his bakery called Sullivan Street the next morning, and I went over there to visit him. And when I went there, the first thing that he wanted to show me was his pizza alla palla. And he does his exactly the way that Campo del Fiore does, the 6-footer. And I actually have a photo of me and Jim holding this 6-foot pizza. It's actually just that they call it in bianco again, more of a focaccia like dough at that stage because it didn't have any toppings. And he's just an amazing person, just a good all-around guy. So that's what, number 4?
Let me see. We got Napolitana, we've got Classica, we've got Italia, we've got Alla Palla.
Alla Palla, all right. And then we have the senza glutine, which is the gluten-free, which is a whole nother style out there. And we call that out as being an Italian style because if you see the work that the Italians have done specifically on the gluten-free pizza, we talk about the Europeans being so far ahead of us in that game, right? They've really studied and focused on it. I can remember we were talking about Tony and going out to Salsa Maggiore. I remember like maybe the second year that I was with the team and we went to the championships out there. It was the first time that the World Pizza Champions team was going to attempt to compete in gluten-free. And I will never forget. Maybe I'm gonna tell a story that I shouldn't, but I'll never forget.
That's the kind of stories we like to hear. Yeah.
These guys were. I was not competing in that category, but the ones that were did. I'm not gonna mention any names.
Yeah.
The ones that did, I'll never forget. Just that white, pasty. It's really sticky dough, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just a mess. So. That was a perfect example. Like when you see the types of pizzas that are being made in gluten-free and the types of bread that are being made, you cannot tell. If you go to Naples right now and you have a gluten-free pizza, you would not be able to tell the difference between that gluten-free pizza and a regular Neapolitan pizza baked in that wood-fired oven.
Really?
They're unbelievable.
Is there a long tradition of this style, or is this a relatively new innovation for them as well?
So I would say it's newer innovation, and I would say that it's probably something that's really begun to get a focus over the last 10 years, which is definitely farther along than we are here in the States. But we're getting better at it. And again, this is one of the classes that I teach here at the Academy is that gluten-free. I had twin brothers from Naples actually come out last year and did a class with me who are renowned in Naples as gluten-free pizza makers.
Really?
And we made some incredible bread, and we made Kaiser rolls. Out of all things to say we were going to make with 2 Italian guys from Naples, we made Kaiser rolls that were gluten-free. And at the end, we were opening these things up. I had about 50 people in that class, and we were doing mortadella and fresh mozzarella and everything. And you want to talk about why the Italians live the way they do. It's for things like that.
That we could do a whole show, I think, on this aspect, because the gluten-free category is, of course, huge right now, but it's also controversial within the pizza world. A lot of people say, they get offended if somebody says, do you offer a gluten-free pizza? And they feel that that's almost sacrilege. But you're saying, no, it's no longer considered that at all. In fact, there's a big area opening up on that. So we've got to find out, what about things that we think of as pizza like focaccia and schiacciata? Where do they fall in the scale?
So those would all get lumped in with the pizza integlia, right? So we've got focaccia that comes from all over Italy. It could be a focaccia genovese, it could be a focaccia pugliese. Depends on where you're coming from. And even those in their own styles, the focaccia is much different than the focaccia that we traditionally see here in the States. And it's becoming more evolved, and it's becoming better. But if you look at those, like one of the things I love about doing that focaccia genovese, for example, it's just that white-topped focaccia. And inside, what they do is they make something called a salamoia. And salamoia is a mixture of olive oil, water, and sea salt. And they beat it together to create an emulsion. And they coat and almost saturate the top of this dough with that salamoia. And when the dough bakes, obviously we know what putting steam inside of an oven does to the top of a loaf. Well, it does almost the same thing to the top of that focaccia, and just creates this open, loose structure on the top, and it's gorgeous.
And we've seen that done. I think Osama Nosrat's TV show on Netflix. What is it? Salt, acid, oil, whatever it is. Her show. She actually demonstrates that and talks about it in her book as well. And I think more people know about that now than ever knew about it because of that one that blew up pretty big.
Yeah, and these are some of these little techniques. These, we call them, these aren't secrets. These aren't tricks. These are things that have been done for 100 years. And maybe we're just the first ones to be shedding some light on it here in the States. But again, I think that this is what makes these styles of pizza in Italy so special. And then why I think the Italians go crazy when we bring them here and then we innovate. I'll call them innovate them, right? We change them a little bit. And sometimes I get why there's that frustration. But on the other side of it, I know that we need to continue to push the envelope to create new great things.
Yeah. Well, Leo, this would be a great time for us to take a little bit of a break. We've covered an awful lot of ground, but we're going to come back and do a whole other show with you and continue to talk. And I'd love in the next segment for you to take us a little bit around your school. You mentioned the school that you've created in Chicago. What's the full name of the school?
So I'm the co-founder and Mastro Istruttore of the North American Pizza and Culinary Academy in Lisle, Illinois. We're out just outside.
And when we come back, you can tell us more about that. Your partner, Anthony, your wife. Show us maybe if the camera will move, you could show us some of the great tools you have there.
I'll take you around
about that and continue exploring sort of this world of pizza styles and you can tell us some of the classes that are even coming up, at the school. We'd love to hear more about that. I'm with Leo Spizzirri, our friend, our no longer the great unknown, but now becoming, one of the big names in the pizza world. And a lot of it has to do with the school that he's created in Chicago, sharing the knowledge that he's accrued over the last 30 years in the industry. We're on Pizza Talk, presented by Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhardt with Leo Spizzirri. Come back and join us on the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you.